Hi, it's Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. So I'm delighted to have been asked by Peg Robinson to participate in her October hop for the group Art Joy of Sharing. And the prompt is Embellish Your Art. So what I'm going to do today is to embellish some scraps, and these can go on to be used in junk journals or collage and other art things. They could be used made into tags, whatever. In particular, I'm going to use these strips of paper. And these are the strips that, for example, if I'm making artist trading cards, they're a particular size, there tends to always be a strip at the end. Or if I've been doing some gel plate printing, my paper's bigger than the gel plate, so there's often a strip that's left. It can be coloured in, of course, but I sometimes just cut them off. But even if you don't have strips like that, there's other things you could make these from. So, for example, this was a piece of packaging that I can cut down. Now, and here's bits out of a sketchbook where I've probably wanted a square page, and I've just simply then cut this off. Most of what I'll be doing will be this kind of width, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches maximum. It doesn't matter if they're broader or thinner though. And I'm calling these rip strips. Now, I've not come up with that name. My lovely friend Sharon from the channel Texture Junkies, and I'll also leave links to her, she gave me the idea for this. I saw her doing these. And I just thought, what a great way to use scraps and to have things on hand that you can then use in collage. Eddie from the channel Eddie Makes Art, he has also made these and does them in a slightly different style to Sharon. That's the thing, you can do them in all different styles, and today I'm hoping to show you at least a couple of styles. So, last thing to say before I get into it is there will be a link at the end of this video that will take you to the complete playlist of the artists participating. So I do hope you'll click that link and, go through all the videos that have been made. I suspect lots of different ways approaching the prompt Embellish Your Art. So that will be at the end. It'll be below as well, as will links to anybody else that I mention. So I'm going to accelerate this because if I'm gluing and working away slowly, it can take me a while to do things. So, time is of the essence. So let's get started. So for my first rip strip, I am actually going to use some items out of a Your Creative Studio subscription box. I think it was the January box. The theme was trains, although I would say it's got actually a wider travel sort of theme to it. So I'm just putting some glue down here. I'm going to take one of the papers that came from the box and I'm going to cover my strip. This is just going to be my kind of base layer. I guess embellish is just about taking things and adding more layers to it, whether it's 1 layer, 2 layers, or whatever. And you'll see that I do a number of different layers. And then I just cover the remaining bit of that strip. So I'm looking through all the lovely ephemera items that came in that box, and what I'm going to do is pick just a few out that I can then use on this strip. And I actually end up almost doing mini collages on the strip, and the whole point of these strips is that you can, have them sitting and just tear a bit off. So if you want to put something into a junk journal, you can tear a bit off. This is almost fashioned like a stamp, and all I've done is to cut the kind of stamp edge off it. I just wanted something a little bit smaller. Now I'm putting a hole in the top of these before I go any further because I do want to put them onto a ring. But here I'm just kind of taking various little bits and pieces of the ephemera out and making a mini collage, and I'll just do that down the length of this strip. Now my thought is that in future, if I'm using these, I can tear them off as individual mini collages, or I just tear right through them, if I want something a little bit more grungy. And once I decide on my sort of layout, all I'll do is to ink round the individual pieces and then use my glue stick to put them down and in place. So today I actually made 4 of these strips, but just in terms of the length of the video, I'm only going to show 2 here, but I will put the other 2 strips in a separate video in a few days after this one's come out. These are a lot of fun to make. I really enjoyed it. I think I made the 4 in just under an hour, so it's the kind of thing, just to sit and do if on a rainy afternoon or whatever, or even of an evening in front of the TV if you like to craft or whatever in front of the TV. So I've got that first little collage in place, and I'll go on and work down and through the rest of the strip in a similar way. And I think one of the things I really like about these strips is it allows you to use any bits of ephemera that you have, whether it's a bought subscription box or whether it's just things you collect, the kind of junk journal type things that you collect, or whether it's painty papers. You can make them any way you really want. And in the next example, which will be along shortly, I show you an entirely different style. So on that particular one, I left that bit hanging over the edge. I just decided, well, that might be okay. Here I'm putting down a bit of vellum, again from the subscription box, so you can still see a bit of the background through it. And of course, you don't have to put down a background paper with these. You could leave it plain, but I just wanted to have a bit of decoration down, a layer down already. So again, well, I didn't ink these. I forgot to ink these, but I just stick them down as a sort of mini collage, just looking at different pieces, looking at how they best fit. It's a type of thing that you could just try and not think about where you put things at all, but it can be very difficult to do that, just to not think through placement and composition. Now here I'm taking a stamp. Again, this came in the set. It has a train on it, and I'm just going to stamp in here. And I thought this would be great, for anybody that has a kind of travel journal. You could make a few of these strips and then you just add them in, and that just ending off with a sticker. And that's my first strip using the Your Creative Studio box. And all I'm doing now is inking round the edge, not necessary, but that's what I'm going to do, and just showing you there that you can just kind of rip bits off. So I've got a small ring, and I'm going to start collecting these on a ring, and I think these would look great dangling from your work desk or from a shelf or whatever. So let's get on to the next one. So here, this was a background I printed from a royalty-free website. I printed it years ago, and that's a scrap that I've kept. So I'm just going to do similar to the first strip and glue this down and in place. So this strip will have a very different feel to the first one. I've got a stamp here. I think I bought that. It was pre-owned, so I don't know what it's called. It's one that I bring out from time to time. I really like it. And all I'm doing here is stamping on just with some black ink, just to give it another layer, another bit of interest. I'm now going through my tissue papers here. Again, some of these are just scraps. I've used pieces elsewhere, and I'm going to just use some of these to stick down. I think I've probably said it already, but this is a project that you can really use whatever you've got. You can use lots of scraps or any ephemera or whatever that you've collected. So I've got these. I'm just tearing little bits of the tissue paper. I think that was just inks that were on there, and again I'm just going to stick these down fairly randomly. But I like that the light is really reflecting off that piece in the background. It really catches it. This was a piece of, I don't know if it was gel printed, but it was using a stencil from PM Artist Studio, and I'll put their links below as well. I think it's, yeah, I think that must have been on the gel plate. So just putting these down, again, fairly randomly, trying not to think about it too much, although you'll see I stop and I change and I put other things in. But I liked that bit of red there because I thought that then just stood out from the rest of the background. Then I thought I will add a stencil to it. So again, it's a PM Artist Studio stencil. So I'm just going to use this sponge and just stencil through this. And this was in, I think it was copper was the stencil. Sorry, was the ink that I was using. So I work halfway down the strip like this, and I think that looks quite nice as a background. I then decide that I'll use that stencil again on the bottom half of the strip. Now I use black, but I'm going to add some copper embossing powder to it. I would normally use a clear stamp, but I couldn't find it, so I thought, well, I'll just try it with the black. It would have been nice with the black on its own, just gives it a slightly different look. And again, this is the thing, you don't have to do the strip in the exact same style. You can swap it about. So that looks good as is, but I'm going to add the copper powder. And of course these could be embellished further if I wanted, you know, so if I was ripping a bit off, putting it in a journal or whatever, I could still add more to it if that's what I wanted. So just knocking off the excess there, and I will use my heat tool to activate it. And once this strip's done, I'll pop in at the end and will show you the 4 that I've actually made. As I say, just for the length of the video, I decided to only show you 2 and to show you 2 very different styles. But I will put the other footage that I've got into a separate video in a few days' time. So please look out for that. So just activating it, again the light is picking up against that really nicely, and I was pleased with the way this turned out. So these are my rip strips, and I just love this idea so much that you can build up a lot of these, and then if you're doing a collage or you're working in a junk journal and you want something, you can just literally tear a piece off. I'm not going to do that just now. I'm going to sit and admire these for the time being. But, you know, that was 4 that I did. Tried to use different supplies because I think it's one of these things that, you know, you can use whatever supplies you've got, and certainly can use your scraps. So those butterflies I'd had for such a long time, so it was a way of using these. And I think these would make lovely gifts, you know, nice and happy mail if you wanted to send something like that. They would also make nice bookmarks. So many uses for them, and I think so many different styles. So this one is, say, using the butterflies that I've had forever with a book page. This one, bits and pieces of scrapbooking paper, bit of tissue paper that was from a gift, I think, and some washi tape. This one actually using my kind of paper scraps, a stencil, using some just ink there, but using embossing powder there. And this one using the Your Creative Studio box, or one of the boxes, with stamping on it, stickers, lots of different ephemera. I mean, this would just be so good if you had a travel journal and you just want to tear a bit off and stick it in your journal. You know, you could decorate the back as well, or you could have the back for journaling. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. Thanks again to Peg for asking me to be a part of this hop. do click the link at the end that will take you to the playlist. And when you've been through that, do come back and perhaps check out Texture Junkies and Eddie Makes Art. I think I've got his channel name right. Anyway, do come back and, I hope to see you in my studio again sometime very soon. So thanks ever much for watching. Do take care. Bye for now.